Welcome back to Nick Lange's Comic Corner, Classics as Non-Classics. This is episode number 647 and Doubleshot 551. Two Batman trades. First up it is Batman Detective Comics Volume 4, The Wrath. This is the last trade I have to review for this series, and I pretty much review everything else except for this one trade. This one collects Detective Comics, Volume 2, Issues 1924 and number 2. This is written by John Layman. Yep, this is actually the second trade that collects his run. And his run was not very long. His run lasted from issues 13 to 29 and had one, I think he even did one of the Villain one-shots. The artwork is done by at least a few different artists on here. Well, also there's a couple different writers. Aside from John Layman, there's also Jameson IV and Josh Williamson. Now, there are many different artists on here. You have Andy Clarkey, Jason Fabok, Brett Booth, Chris Burnham, Scott Eden, Sartor Flora, who's usually an artist who usually works with Tony S. Daniel whenever he does new artwork. Francisco Francivilla, great artist. Rob Hunter, Michael Jenin, who actually still does some artwork for Batman right now. Yeah. It's one of the he's actually one of the recurring artists, aside from David Finch. I think he did some stuff recently. Yeah, it was just before Clay Mann took over full time as the artist. We also have Eric Johnson, Simon Kirsten, Alex Maleev, Jason Masters, Dustin Nguyen, Jamie Medusa, Norp Raymond, who also is an inker. I'm surprised he's an artist on here. Daros Segors and Cameron Stewart. Yeah, a lot of artists on here. And as for the title Wrath, that's only just a three-parter. Yes, and it takes up issues 22 to 24, which has Batman take on the post-Flashpoint version of the Wrath, which they did something quite unusual with him. They have an anagram of the two previous ones. Yeah, this is technically the third Wrath who appeared in comic books. Now, what they did with him is that they pretty much gave him the backstory of the original one, mixed in the fact he's rich, and they gave him his real name is actually come from the second Wrath. Oh, and by the way, after the storyline, the Wrath would not appear in comics again. It's actually just recent, like as of last year. Yep. Now, during these issues, there was a backup feature in here, which I am actually quite surprised that DC threw this in here. There was a Man-Bat backup feature actually in the Detective Comics. And by the way, this was the last backup feature, that this series would have. This was by far the first, this is probably the first one. First time Detective Comics has had a backup feature that I can think of. I mean, before this, the last time I could think of was when the question was a backup feature in this title. Yes, that was the last unofficial time that there was a backup feature in the Detective Comics, and that was back in 2010. These issues came out roughly just, I'd say about 5 years ago, and they're still really good. Issue 19 is the 900th issue of the entire Detective Comics series, and they do kind of acknowledge it. Heck, there's even a story called The 900 Block, because apparently the Gotham City is 900 blocks. Yeah, the opening issue here is a giant size issue. And I think when it came, it was like $5. Yeah, I mean, the story is called 900. It's mostly just about Man-Bat stuff. Yeah, which kind of loosely sets up the backup feature in the book. Yeah. And the stuff with Emperor Penguin, which, by the way, his little story wraps up with issue 20. Yeah, that's the thing with Emperor Penguin. Despite the fact the storyline started with issue 13, and despite the fact the previous trade ended issue 18, that's not technically where the Emperor Penguin storyline ends. It actually ends with issue 20. Yeah, with this is actually the cover that they used for the issue, which had, well, Batman defeating Emperor Penguin. Oh, and by the way he breaks into his mansion, by the way, it used to be Cobblepot's mansion. He uses, of all things, and this is probably, I could think of the first time I could think of in the comics wise, he actually uses this thing as transportation. What did they use? believe it or not, the Tumbler from the Christopher Nolan Batman series. Yeah, I'm like, the Tumbler. Wow, I did not expect to see this in the comics. Yeah, I can't think of any other time this has shown up in the comics. Oh, and also, just prior to this, Olivey, who was the Emperor Penguin, he decided to call himself Blue. And after the Wrath storyline, he does reappear for the end of that one. But in the case of what he does afterwards, Emperor Penguin, I think, pops up for Batman Eternal. And I think that's it. That's all he really does. 21. What is 21? It is a story that features Harper Row, which kind of sets up her becoming Batman's sidekick, fights off a faction of the League of Assassins, a storyline that was set up to do something but apparently went nowhere. It was probably now, the story itself was noteworthy for the first time Harper Row has been featured in a Batman comic, in a comic book that was not written by Scott Snyder. Yeah, this is actually quite something for Harper Row to do. Because anytime this girl showed up, Scott Snyder was always the writer for the book. And John Lane was the first person who was not Scott Snyder to write this character in. The next time I could think of where she actually showed up in a book that was not featured by Scott Snyder, where Scott Snyder was not the writer of the book, is probably the current volume of the Detective comic by James Tynion. Yeah, he's probably the first person I can think of who's actually written Harper Row into a story, and he's not Scott Snyder. Though she did technically, she did show up there in Batman Eternal, Batman Eternal. Yeah, but Scott Snyder had a hand basically with her dialogue. But in the case of this particular one, first time she's ever appeared outside of Batman at this point. Yeah, and her previous appearance, just prior to appearing in issue 21, was actually Batman number 18. Yeah, that was her last appearance prior to that. And I think after that she didn't show up again. She showed up there in Zero Year, and then after that she showed up there in Batman Eternal. She played a pretty big part in that. And then after that wrapped up, she popped up in Catwoman. She popped up in Batgirl. Then after she appeared in Batgirl, she also appeared in Batman and Robin Eternal, where she retired as Bluebird. And then since then, she's made occasional appearances in Detective Comics. She even appeared in the Lone Piece of Dying storyline. Yeah. But the Wrath storyline is probably by far a really good story. But it's sad, though, that like 5 issues after John Lane wraps up the story, he leaves the comic book. I don't know why. If I ever get a chance to meet him, I'm going to ask him, like, why did you leave? Why did you stop writing Detective Comics after only doing about 17 issues? Yeah, he was not on the book for very long, like roughly like about a year and a half. And then he left. And then Francis Manapone and Brian Bucciello took over the book for roughly like about almost about the same period of time, until Pedro Tomasi took over the remaining issues of the run before it was relaunched just a couple years ago. The stories in here are fantastic. I love the stuff with Victor Zsasz. Yeah, it was interesting Victor Zsasz became a Man-Bat. That was interesting. I never expected him to do that. But as for the Wrath storyline, that is just epic awesomeness of how really good the story is. And, heck, it had the most shocking, like, the last part had the most shocking opening I have ever seen. A gigantic tank, like, going down the street near the GCPD. Let me show up the opening page of this issue. It is by far one of the most shockingest openings I have ever seen. Also, they even have Jane Doe from the Arkham Asylum miniseries. I thought that was really interesting, the fact they threw that in. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh yeah, and also, they even had this thing where Cardinal tried to buy Wayne Enterprises. Yeah, that goes, like, yeah, that gets brought up again once after that, but, yeah, it's a plot thread that really goes nowhere. Yeah, that's a thing. And also, Caldwell, also, he did something quite interesting. He gave the GCPD equipment, which later failed them. So, yeah, after he was arrested. Oh, and also, we have an appearance by the Batplane. Yeah, one of the few... Now, a lot of the time when this thing showed up, it usually appeared in Dark Knight. Yeah, this is by far the only other comic I could think of during the course of 2011 and 2016 that actually showed up in. As far as I know, it's not made appearance recently. As a matter of fact, I think the the writers of Batman comics have really toned down the amount of Bat vehicles appearing in the Batman comics. I think that maybe you have the Batmobile show up in the pages of All-Star Batman, but that's it. That's the only thing I could think of. Let's see if I can find the page here. It has the really epic awesomeness of Call bringing a tank down the street. Look at this thing. Yeah, a few pages in, and he brings a frickin' tank. This thing is huge. Let's see if I can find a good picture of it. You can barely see this thing. Yeah, that's one thing disappointing about this thing. You see this gigantic tank that comes out of nowhere, and apparently this is the thing that attacked the GCPD. Yeah, Caldwell had this thing built, and he fires it on the old GCPD headquarters. Yeah, this was something to see this. And even had Batman wear a bat arm, which was really nice. And as for Caldwell himself, like I said, he disappeared. Didn't show up again until just prior to leaving place and dying in a standalone story called Spoiler Strikes Back, which was his first appearance since this three-parter. And he somehow got out of prison. It's never really explained. It's like he's out of prison now for some reason. And the artist of the book decided to draw him like an alien. I'm not kidding about that. I love the look of the Wrath. It's really cool. Though his original look basically was a purple Batman. He was... If you ever read the original appearance of the original Wrath, the first appearance was from Batman Special Number 1. And the way his costume is designed, it's basically the Bat costume if it was purple. Though they did use the whole thing of a purple bat suit with Batman's raw bat suit for Batman R.I.P. I'm going to give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Really good book, and really thick too. As for the annual itself, let's see if I can find some stories from it. Yeah, it's a really good story. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stories in here. Most of the annual is about the character Jane Doe and the whole thing with Harry Bullock. Yeah. Alright, next up is Batman Ghost by Sam Keith. Yep. He is the writer and artist of this particular storyline and another miniseries they threw in here as well, which is Batman/Lobo Deadly Series. I like the writing he does in here. He writes his characters fantastically. I'm not a big fan of his artwork. I know this is the same guy who actually did the series The Max. Have I read The Max? No, I have never read The Max. Because I am not a big fan of Sam Keith's artwork. Also, the guy is really lazy when it comes to drawing the bat symbol. I'm not kidding about that. His bat symbol is really lazy. Let me show you a good picture of it. I mean, my gosh, this is a lazy bat symbol. That's not a good picture of it. It's barely covering. Let's see if I can get a picture of it. Let's see here. I'm trying to find a good picture of it. On the cover, it looks really good. Like, I appreciate him doing that. But, yeah, the bat symbol inside the comic is not very good. I mean, that's the best I can find at the moment. Yeah, but, yeah, look at the bat suit. The bat symbol, the suit I don't mind. The way he draws. It's the bat symbol itself. It looks really lazy. Yeah. Also, there's this nerdy girl who's kind of chunky. Okay, here's a better look at it right here. Yeah, this is how Sam Keith draws the bat symbol inside the book. Yeah, this is really lazy. I have no problem with how he draws faces in here, but wow, man. And also the blind... Now, what is this trade? Well, this collects Batman Confidential issues number 40 to 43, which is a 4-part story. Oh, yeah, and there's this girl in here who's blind. And it's very heavily implied she has a thing for Batman. Yeah, and for some reason... Yeah, I'm not sure why in the world this artist has this thing for women. Where he draws them where they look kind of chunky. Yeah, I don't know why. But he does. For some strange reason. Heck, even the following mini-series, he draws women who look like they're kind of chubby. I mean, like a little bit chubby, but pretty acceptable. Yeah, it's really, really very off-putting when it comes to how Sam Keith draws women here. It's not like when George Perez gave Scarlet Witch a round tummy and Raven. It's not like that. It's kind of like that Sam Keith did this on purpose. Let me find a good picture of the woman's belly. Because he does kind of a close-up of it, and it's got a tattoo on her belly. I mean, he draws the woman really well. I do appreciate that. But yeah, also, is it just me, or he draws Commissioner Gordon with the humongous shoulders? I mean, what the heck is this? It's like Gordon has got shoulder pads underneath his coat. Yeah, and here's how he draws women in the Batman. Now, the artwork for this series is a little better than he was Batman Ghost. It's like Batman Ghost, he's a bit lazy. This one looked like he had it's like he was rushed. This one feels like a little more polished. He draws the bat symbol pretty much the same, but yeah. I mean, look at this woman. She has a bit of a, I mean, can't exactly look over the light. She has a bit of a round belly here. Yeah, I don't know why in the world he did that for. Here we go. Here's another woman. Yeah. He has this thing where he draws women this way. I don't know why he does this for, but he does. Also, he even had something you don't expect to see on mainstream comic book, especially in the 90s. I think this one came out. Let's see. I think it must have came out in 2007, I think it was, yes. Where he has a lesbian kiss in a comic book. Yep, you don't see these very much, not even in DC Comics. Though this is more of a transfer of possession. I've seen this a few times in fiction where this can transfer via kiss. Yes. I've seen this in the episode of Outer Limits called The Reaper, where they actually had it where they had a body swapping thing where this little green stuff had on a woman's mouth. I mean, the first time you see this is when you see two women basically doing it, and then this goes body swapping across London before the doctor who's investigating this is somehow convinced. Somehow he's driven insane and he's put into a insane asylum. Heck, even the woman who's actually kind of got a personality, she even comments the fact that she did that by weight, and according to the being in this position, it's like your body's going through changes. Okay, fine, whatever. Yes. The story I like. I like the writing. I like the stories for both the Ghost story arc from Batman Confidential, which this one I have no idea when in the world this takes place during Batman's career. It feels like some random story that takes place in present day, because you have Batman with the communicator in his ear. I mean, if this is supposed to take place early in Batman's career, wouldn't he? I mean, I get the fact he probably has something like that, but this feels like it's set in present day. Instead of like during Batman's early years, like a lot of the other stuff when it comes to this particular series. That's the weakness of the storyline, is that you have no idea when it takes. It feels like an Elseworld story. Excuse me, yeah. What am I going to give this book? I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. I'm not a big fan of the artwork, but the Batman / Lobo Daily Series miniseries, that one I kind of felt this one had a lot more polished artwork, and it didn't feel as rushed, and didn't feel as lazy. In the case of Batman Ghost, yeah, it felt a little bit lazy. Now, I don't think Sam Keith is a bad writer. I don't think he's a terrible artist. It's just I'm not a big fan of his artwork. That's just the thing. I am not a fan. I'm against his artwork. It's just I'm not a fan. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be episode number 648 and Doubleshot number 552. Okay? And that one I'm going to cover a Batgirl and Wonder Woman trade. You'll find out what they are in the next episode. Okay? But to see you all there. Bye.